How do you see this fight with Canelo going?
I'm definitely going to win the fight for sure. But, I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think he's going to bring the best out of me. I'm going to bring the best out of him, and it's going to be exciting.
Jaron Ennis summed up his experience sparring with Canelo Alvarez in just 3 words, and that short but sharp response instantly fueled excitement for Canelo's upcoming clash with Terence Crawford.
It kind of broke the internet. That might have been like your 3rd time this year. Yeah. Did you expect this kind of attention from a sparring session?
I already knew it was gonna go crazy. Once we posted the pic, I'm like, yo, this jump gonna go everywhere. We kind of figured it, and it kind of, you could say it made the fight more interesting, because everybody kind of want to tune in a little bit more to see, what's gonna happen.
You saw that he brought in Jaron. What was your reaction? Like your first initial reaction when you saw that news?
I actually didn't see it. Somebody showed me, and I was just like, so what that mean? He's not me.
Yeah.
As much as a lot of people, say we have similarities, and we switch a lot, and we fight a lot. He's not me, and I'm not him. So
yeah. Tim had said comparison that he's like a Chrysler 300 and you're like a Bentley.
Yeah, once again, he's not me. He's trying to get to where I'm at. He's where he at, I'm where I'm at. You got a long way to go.
Ennis, one of boxing's brightest rising stars, recently had the opportunity to share the ring with the Mexican superstar. For him, it wasn't just about preparing for his own career, it was a chance to grow, learn, and test himself against one of the sport's most accomplished champions. Some questioned why he'd help Canelo as he prepared for an American rival like Crawford, but Ennis didn't hesitate. For him, it was never about politics, it was about experience, lessons, and stepping in with a living legend.
A great experience. I love being out there. It was fun. I had a great time.
All right. Being that this was your 2nd time, right? What do you feel like you gained from it?
Just having fun. Being in there with what he got 70. Canelo got 70 fights or something like 67 fights or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was just cool being there. You be able to share the ring with him. Having fun. Learning different things. And I was out there fishing. I was doing a bunch of different stuff. It was cool to get away. And I love that I experienced that. Getting away, sparring Canelo, fishing, just having fun. With my brother. And things like that. So it was cool.
Having recently vacated his welterweight titles to move up to 154 pounds, Ennis joined Canelo's camp as part of his own transition. The sparring delivered exactly what he wanted: exposure to a fighter with 70 bouts across multiple divisions, widely regarded as the face of boxing. The change of scenery away from Philadelphia gave him a refreshing challenge and inspired him to possibly bring his entire camp there next time. Ennis soaked in every moment, describing it as one of the most valuable experiences of his career.
I feel like it was the perfect time because, like you said, I'm moving up in weight, and I want to just, experience something different. I always do camp in Philly, and I just wanted to do something different, and I definitely think I'm gonna take my whole next full camp to, over there, and where we was at. I loved it out there.
Criticism soon followed, with some suggesting Ennis had betrayed Crawford by helping Canelo prepare. But he dismissed the noise quickly, stressing that his decision wasn't about loyalty, it was about growth. Trading shots with a fighter of Canelo's caliber was too valuable to pass up. Ennis walked away not only satisfied but motivated, feeling like he'd gained new tools for his next chapter at super welterweight. His upcoming fight with Wisma Lima will test that growth, but his sparring stories have already added intrigue to the looming Canelo-Crawford showdown.
Do you expect this kind of attention from a sparring session?
I already knew it was gonna go crazy. Once we posted the pic, I'm like, yo, this jump gonna go everywhere. We kind of figured it, and it kind of, you could say it made the fight more interesting, because everybody kind of want to tune in a little bit more to see, what's gonna happen for them.
What's your thoughts on the backlash?
I ain't gonna lie, I really don't care. I ain't gonna lie, I went out there not only to help, but I went out there for myself, basically. To start my first 2 weeks off at camp, I wasn't where we was at, with the elevation and all that. That was phenomenal. This was for me. It wasn't for nobody else. I went out there and I got to experience, being in the ring with Canelo. And like I said, we was having fun. I had a great time sparring him, and it was good. You know.
Another perspective came from William Skull, the Cuban contender who last faced Canelo in May. Skull lost both his unbeaten record and IBF belt that night, a defeat criticized for its lack of resistance. Still, Skull understands Canelo's power and dominance at 168 pounds better than most. Asked about Crawford's chances, he was honest. While Crawford is elite and the matchup excites on paper, the weight difference is a major obstacle that cannot be overlooked.
It's going to be a great fight. There is a disadvantage in regards to the weight classes. If there wasn't, it would be a 50-50 fight. But because of this fighting at this weight class, definitely benefits Canelo. I say about a 75% chance that Canelo wins the fight.
But Crawford looks bigger now. He's put on a little bit of weight. You don't think that might make it a little bit more closer?
Crawford ha puesto mucho peso últimamente. William, ¿tú no crees que esto puede hacer la pelea un poquito más apretada?
Bueno, hay que esperar, pues sinceramente es una pelea que es para ver, ¿no? No puede dar pronóstico, pero bueno, sí, lo he visto un poco más fuerte, ¿no? Pero bueno, Canelo baja de otra división y Crawford está subiendo, no es lo mismo, ¿me entiendes? Pero bueno, es una pelea que hay que ver, hay que sentarse a ver y va a ser un gran espectáculo para la afición y le exhorto a los dos que se cuiden, que salgan con salud y que sea un gran espectáculo.
No, it's definitely going to be a fight that everybody's going to want to see. Again, you know, Canelo is staying at his weight, and Crawford, even though he looks stronger, he's really coming up in weight a lot. But you know, it's boxing, and anything can happen. And I want both of them to be at least, because it's a dangerous fight, for both of them to take.
Shawn Porter, a former two-time welterweight champion who once fought Crawford himself, added his thoughts. Porter admitted his natural bias toward his fellow American but set emotions aside in assessing the fight. He finds the timing fascinating, two men at critical points in their careers, with the stakes higher than ever. Porter praised Crawford's sharpness, health, and mental toughness at 37, stressing that very few fighters have been able to challenge him psychologically. Still, he acknowledged Canelo's experience and the wars he's endured, noting that both men bring something unique to the table.
Now talk about a fight with Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. It does come from a personal place for me to root for him, but I know how to put my bias aside and be realistic about this fight. I think it's perfect timing for both of these guys. I think that this is a fight that both guys have the ability to win. I think that Canelo has been in enough wars and Terence hasn't. So I think health is on his side. I think the ability to be able to be 100% on fight night is on Terence's side. I think Canelo is going to come to the ring at 90%. He's just, that's where he's at now.
Yeah.
And if he's strong enough and he's mentally prepared to do what it takes to break down Terence, you gotta break down Terence mentally. You don't break him down physically, you break him down mentally, you know? So it's a tall feat for both these guys. And I think that it's very real. This is a 50-50 fight, I think. And I do think that Terence will put.
Not everyone is picking Crawford. Manny Pacquiao, an 8-division world champion who knows more than anyone about climbing weight classes, made his position clear. The Filipino legend is siding with Canelo. His reasoning was straightforward. Canelo has already proven himself at higher weights, competing as high as 175 pounds, while Crawford has spent nearly his entire career between 140 and 154, with just one fight above welterweight. In Pacquiao's eyes, the proven bigger man holds the edge.
Fight. He's gonna beat Crawford? Yeah. I think so too. Let's go.
Lester Martinez, one of Crawford's sparring partners ahead of the fight, added more fuel to the debate with his first-hand insight. The unbeaten Guatemalan prospect explained that Crawford looks even stronger at 168 pounds than he did as a welterweight. Martinez described him as explosive, sharp, and surprisingly powerful, noting that the added size hasn't slowed him down. In fact, he believes Crawford may now be more dangerous, combining his trademark speed and timing with an extra pop in his punches.
sparring con él desde que estaba en las 147 libras, mi primer sparring con él en las 147. Yo era ya 168, sigo siendo 168 y lo único que hizo ahora pues es subir de peso, aumentar de peso y sí se siente muy diferente haber hecho sparring con él en 147 y ahora hacer sparring con él en 168. Pero yo creo que...
¿Cómo se siente diferente?
En el sentido que le he sentido más pegada, más explosivo, la rapidez, el snap lo tiene todavía el cabrón, no lo he sentido, pero creo que la nutrición que lleva, el equipo de trabajo con el que tiene, hizo una muy buena base para estar en las 168 libras.
Dicen que Lester Martínez pegue bien duro, pero también una pregunta en la pelea es, pues, ¿puede aguantar a Crawford la pegada de un Canelo?
Sí, de hecho que sí. De hecho, te digo, los sparring que él ha hecho con personas más grandes que él, más pesados, con mi persona, y sí, es solo...
Oscar de la Hoya, who once guided Canelo under Golden Boy Promotions, took a very different stance. Dismissing the matchup as unrealistic, de la Hoya argued that the size gap makes the fight heavily tilted in Alvarez's favor. While the media hypes it as one of the decade's biggest events, he suggested it was almost laughable for Crawford to jump up 2 full divisions. Pointing to Crawford's struggles against Israel Madrimov, de la Hoya predicted that Canelo's strength and physicality would overwhelm him, going so far as to say Alvarez would run Crawford out of the ring.
Anyone you would like to see Crawford fight next, you think would be a good opponent for him?
I think,
Good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of great fighters out there. I mean, a lot of people are mythically matching up Crawford versus Canelo, which I feel Crawford will win.
Yeah. Okay.
But it'll be a great fight.
Yeah.
George Kambosos Jr. offered a more balanced take. He noted how Alvarez appeared to struggle with cutting off the ring in his recent bout against William Skull, suggesting possible signs of decline. However, Kambosos quickly cautioned against underestimating a fighter like Canelo. In his view, Alvarez has repeatedly proven that when the stakes are at their highest, he finds another gear and rises to the occasion.
Have such dynamic, boxing attributes, and like I said, Canelo has to press Crawford. He has to be able to use his size, bully him, and able to land them shots that are going to hurt him and put him in 2 frames of mind. Now Crawford, on the other hand, as much as the size difference doesn't really look like there is a size difference, there is a difference in the weight they've been fighting at. And like I said, Canelo's been fighting as high as a light heavyweight. Crawford, in his last fight, did go up to junior middleweight against Madrimov. He did seem to struggle a little bit with a guy at a higher weight. So now you're moving up to super middleweight, will have some effect. But again, it is the biggest fight of his life, biggest fight of Canelo's life, and you're gonna truly think that they're going to be prepared for anything. But the big thing is, will Crawford be able to dictate the fight against a guy like Canelo Alvarez, who's the bigger man, the guy who's going to be pushing the pressure. We saw the way he dictated and hurt Errol Spence, in that big fight where no one thought he would be able to do that against a guy like Spence. So, it's going to be very, very interesting.
Promoter Eddie Hearn also weighed in, insisting Crawford's chances are very real if he executes the right strategy. He referenced Alvarez's 2022 loss to Dimitri Bivol, where smart footwork, constant angles, and disciplined counters neutralized Canelo's attack. For Hearn, that blueprint could be Crawford's path to victory: stay mobile, manage distance, and avoid exchanges where Canelo can plant and throw power shots. Still, he acknowledged the difficulty of the task, with Canelo being fully established at 168 while Crawford enters uncharted territory.
Canelo Crawford is a fight, one of the best fights that can be made in boxing. Backwards and forwards on it, if I'm honest. I mean, my worry is, I see the size of Crawford, he looks pumped up, like much bigger obviously than usual. And it's very difficult to do that to your body and go in and perform like you always perform. I don't know if that's going to help him or hinder him. I hate picking against Canelo Alvarez because, I say he's a mate. I respect him a huge amount. We work together. I worry if he's the same fighter at this stage of his career. I mean, let's be honest, both guys are old in terms of, fighters in their prime. What's Crawford, 36, 37? Canelo, but same 36, they're the same kind of age, I think. I worry about Canelo's legs. I remember watching the Skull fight, and he was demotivated for the Skull fight, so you can't take too much from it, but I just felt that his legs looked like they were slowing down a little bit. And, can Crawford handle the power at 168? Let's be honest, he didn't look sensational against Madrimov at 154. Like, he's been so inactive. He's been fighting once a year for the last 2 years, 3 years even. Right now, my head is just leaning with Crawford.
Former heavyweight contender Bryant Jennings, who famously went 12 rounds with Vladimir Klitschko, rejected the notion that the bigger man always wins. In his eyes, Crawford's speed, athleticism, and determination can overcome the size gap. Jennings argued that history has shown smaller fighters troubling bigger opponents, and he predicted this fight could end in a close split decision win for Crawford, edging it on skill and willpower.
I'm leaning more towards Crawford as time goes on. And I guess it's just him coming from a lower weight, because it's like, me witnessing a person like, Boots, that's a lower weight, and it, like, a lot of times weight don't really matter, because I've seen him smash guys that are just like way bigger than him. So I'm looking at it in a sense of, I think Crawford can handle the weight difference, and he could bring, the elusiveness of a lower. I mean, Canelo lower too, but Canelo fight more like a bully in a sense. He's lower too. He's good too, but he just fight more with like more strength, overpowering. He has great technique. He's great, but I'm just looking at the athleticism and the will that Crawford always had and always brought, and I'm just thinking of that just transforming into like this weight difference. The weight difference is the only thing that we could pretty much argue about, but I think with the weight difference, with me witnessing like smaller guys really just like do damage to bigger guys, it's like, what, that kind of really don't matter in a sense, as long as you're good on your game, good on your feet, and you can duck and block some punches.
Roy Jones Jr., a man who knows both greatness and daring weight jumps, admitted he's shifted his perspective. Initially, Jones favored Crawford, confident in his skills. But news of Canelo sparring with Jaron Ennis, an elite, switch-hitting fighter, made him reconsider. To Jones, that showed Alvarez was taking Crawford's style very seriously. He now sees the matchup as razor close, hinging on who can be more comfortable under the lights, Canelo with his natural size, or Crawford with his superior ring craft.
I have mixed feelings, and emotionally I'm very happy that the fight is happening because it's a great fight for both fighters. Initially, I thought maybe Canelo didn't have the hunger to go out there and really try to keep Bud off of him or try to go at Bud, When I heard he had Jaron and Ennis in camp, it made me realize that he really is trying to prepare for Bud, because Jaron and Ennis is probably the only other person that can really logically and realistically fight left-handed or right-handed, which is what he's done see from Bud. That lets me know that Canelo's taking it serious. If Canelo's taking it serious, it's going to be a much harder fight for Bud than I anticipated. I still think Bud has the skill to beat anybody on any night, but so does Canelo. So this makes it a much more intriguing fight for me. It's hard to really pick a winner now. I was kind of leaning more toward Bud in the beginning, but now I see that Canelo's taking it really serious. It's a little bit harder because Canelo has been at that weight for some time. Bud's just not coming to that weight. So Canelo is comfortable in the weight. Bud is comfortable in the ring. That being said, it's just going to be who can be most comfortable that night. And I don't know who that's going to be right.
Together, these voices from legends, contenders, and insiders frame what many are calling a true super fight. Canelo Alvarez, the established king at 168, brings power, experience, and proven dominance across multiple divisions. Terence Crawford, the smaller man daring to climb, carries speed, skill, and the chance to make unprecedented history. Whether it ends in a knockout, a tactical chess match, or a shocking upset, this is more than just another fight, it's a battle for legacy. And whatever the result, its echoes will be felt in boxing for years to come. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Knockout Voyage for more amazing boxing content. Stay tuned for the next big fight.